All right, everybody, we're here once again. It's game time with Doc and Lurch. Um, we're just going to do a really quick sound check and then jump right on in.
It helps if I have my mic, facing me instead of the other side, like on the TV.
Nah. No, yeah, it probably does help quite a bit. Okay, let's do a real quick sound check. Check one, two, check one, two. Sound check, check one, two, check one, two. Sound check, check one, two, check one, two. Sound check, check one, two, check one, two. There we go.
That might,
All right,
that might,
we're in like
that
Flynn.
the sound I made probably sounded more like an error than a sound check.
Yeah. I thought you were kind of trying to go for like a Wookiee roar and didn't do it very well.
Yeah. I am looking at Star Wars on my screen with 20 seconds later.
Right? All right. All right. So, everybody, we're here. As you know, we are Game Time. We're part of Eclectic Endeavors. We're not directly affiliated or sponsored by Eclectic Endeavors, but me and Lurch are both part of the board. The board there. He is the co-chair this year and the director of electronic gaming. I am the director of cross promotions as well as the panel director this year. As you can see on our screen, our dates are set for next or this year, the final year of game, which will be October 14th, 15th, and 16th. Still at the Springfield Expo Center, where we've been pretty much since game started, and it's only going to cost you $10 to get in for the whole weekend. Since it's the last year, we're not trying to make any kind of profit at all. We're kind of just break even and just pay our bills so that we can put on the best show possible for you guys. We're going to have our vendors. We're going to have electronic gaming. Lurch is still going to have his big electronic gaming section. We're going to have a huge section for tabletop gaming as normal. We are going to have some panels. Um, Other things will depend on if we have volunteers to actually run those sections. So if you'd like a specific section to happen and you don't see it happening, join up on Eclectic Endeavors on Facebook, the group, and come to the meetings. Because if you hear that a section's not happening and you want to see that it happen, you can volunteer and help make it happen. Things like the costume contest, the art show, those kind of things we don't currently have people to run, and we're only going to we're not going to overly stretch ourselves. We're only going to run what we can run. So the more volunteers, the more we can pack into this weekend. And henchmen really make the show go. Without henchmen and stuff, we can't do this. It's a labor of people, and it's a labor of love. Nobody gets paid to do this. Henchmen get a T-shirt and a couple other perks, but nobody gets paid. Lurch does. In fact, we often invest a little bit of our own money into this. It's the other way around.
Those of us in the higher levels of the group that are working on it end up investing money in. Or, I don't know if it's an investment in the terms of helping
We
make the con better, but
Yeah,
we don't make any money ourselves back. So like
no.
I'll be spending money on video games to help the video game section have more options, but I don't get reimbursed or anything like that for it. So it actually ends up coming out of my pocket a bit. But
Yeah.
you know what? It's a good time, and I like having video games anyway. That's my
Yeah.
basic.
So
That's my
you got to keep the game. So hey, there you go.
yeah.
um, and that's the thing. See, we put this on and we do as much as we can to make it a weekend to remember. And generally, I think we're pretty successful. At least that's what we hear feedback from everybody. If you feel differently, definitely let us know because we want to know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And that's the same with game time. We want to know what you want to see here in this show. So let us know. Contact me or Lurch on Facebook or email and let us know. Like, are there some topics that you think we've been ignoring that could be of interest to you in the Nerdosphere? Maybe we can go check it out. We like to cover like movie openings and of course, the CW verse, the new Marvel shows as they come out on Disney Plus, Kickstarters, and of course, all the things in the console world. Philip tries to cover. A lot of times, he tries to do a topic for each of the big consoles. If there's something new out for all three of them, to really cover. Sometimes cover something else. But
Yeah.
if you have an idea for something, let us know. And if you don't want to do it by email or anything, if you're going out and about, um, go to Holdfast Brewing Company on the third Wednesday of every month and talk to Greg Pullman, who used to be one of our anchors here until his schedule got a little bit too busy. But he still runs the game night at Holdfast Brewing Company. And if you pass a suggestion on to Greg, he'll pass it along to us. So, because he's also with Eclectic Endeavors, he is the director of tabletop gaming. So he's in charge of the role playing games like Dungeons and Dragons and card games like Magic the Gathering or Yu Gi Oh! Or Pokemon. Uh, and you can join in on this, and of course you're always welcome to come in and talk on the chat while we're doing this. I mean, a lot of you watch this on a rebroadcast because we do pass this along over to YouTube within a week of broadcast, and I think most people who do watch it on rebroadcast. But if you ever here, we're here for every Tuesday from 8 p.m. till at least 10 p.m. We often go later. I'll warn you that right now. And it's not intentional. We just do it. And you can talk with us. I mean, if you've got Discord and you want your voice to be heard, you could even pop up on Discord and say hi and get in on the discussion. We often have guests. Well, not often, but we have like Angel comes in and helps talk to us about things like new kaiju movies or his favorite Marvel movies that we're going to be talking about. So,
He was actually just telling me today he would love to be as part of our show a lot more often, except for it just doesn't work well with his work schedule.
and that's fine. It's nice to have him as a special guest, though. So
Yeah.
he gets a little bit more focused then, and that's fine. We like to have guests and give us other opinions. I mean, my opinion and Lurch's opinion are not the only opinions on the internet. In fact, we don't even always agree on everything. So it's good to have more opinions. That's one thing about the nerd community. We are a diverse group. I mean, I'm always right, but you know what? You can go ahead and tell me I'm wrong if you want to. uh, all right. We're going to go ahead and get right on to the subject matter at hand, which is, of course, the nerdosphere, with our first topic, and that's Lurch talking. Looks like it's a Nintendo based topic. Oh, let me close out this ad.
Yeah.
And it's something to do with Game Boy emulator.
Yeah. So there was a leak that came out. It's hard to say how reliable this is, but according to some data mining and all that, there is evidence of games that have been tested on an emulator for running Game Boy Advance games on Nintendo Switch. Um, a pretty healthy list here. I'll go ahead and kind of quickly go through this list real quick, but it's kind of a keep in mind this is nothing, no guarantees, and these are games that are tested, not necessarily games that are coming out. But I think we got some interesting ones here. We've got Astro Boy, Car Battle Joe, Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow, Castlevania Circle of the Moon, Choo-Choo Rocket, Drill Dozer, Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, F-Zero, Maximum Velocity, Game & Watch. Oh, hang on, I missed one. I messed up on a Castlevania, didn't I? Castlevania Circle of the Moon. All right, sorry. F-Zero Maximum Velocity, Game & Watch Gallery 4, Golden Sun The Lost Age, Gunstar Superheroes, Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Koro Koro Puzzle Happy Panachu. I don't know what that game's about, but that title's silly. Koro Koro Kororo Kururin? Oh, jeez. What looks like Lufia, The Ruins of Lore, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, Mario Golf Advanced Tour, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Mario Party Advance, Mario Tennis Power Tour, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Mega Man Battle Network 5, Team Proto Man, Mega Man Battle Network 2, Mega Man 03, and Metroid Fusion. Which, out of this list, I think Metroid Fusion might be my favorite one on the list. However, there's some solid games on this list. Quite a few of them. Now, hopefully, hopefully this is true. Hopefully we're getting hopefully we're getting some Game Boy Advance games on the Switch Online. It's been rumored for a while, and now with this leak of these files of tested games that have been data mined, things are looking more and more promising.
And
that's actually just what's off a list. There's also been like images that they have found, like Zelda Minish Cap and Zelda's Link's Awakening DX.
and keep in mind that this is leaked to supposedly be something Nintendo's testing, which means this is not an illicit or black market pirated emulator. This is to possibly go on the Switch online service.
That's the idea.
Yeah, which means you'll be legally able to do this. We do not promote pirating.
Pokemon Pinball.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got.
This is an exciting possibility. Yeah, this is really good because a lot of these games are great games that people love. I mean, back in the day when I was a kid, kids walked around with Game Boys a lot, and
I was a kid that walked around with a Game Boy a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
My first Game Boy was Game Boy Color, and I carried that thing around a lot.
Well, I remember when the first Game Boys came out. I remember when the Game Boy VR came out. I remember when the the PSP came out. I remember all of these things came out, and kids, especially the Game Boy, it was one of the earliest independently handheld consoles, and people were playing. I mean, you didn't have super edgy graphics or anything, but it was for the generation. It was great, and
they were solid playable games.
They were.
Monochrome.
Oh yeah, the monochrome games on there were just awesome, and kids were, like how people are now with their noses in their phones. They were in their Game Boys at that time in school and stuff. Every time, the teacher wasn't looking, they were like,
Gotta catch that Pikachu.
"Gotta catch that Pikachu! Gotta beat that newest greatest game that just came out. Gotta play Castlevania. Gotta do Ghosts and Goblins. Gotta do all these games that were." And then when Game Boy Color came out, oh my God, did it explode? So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be looking forward to it. And then that's nothing compared to the injection we got when Game Boy Advanced came out. Because Advanced was really hyped. Game Boy, because it was the first, was big. But Advanced left Game Boy in the dust. People loved Game Boy Advance games. And so these are great. Long before the Switch became a portable console unit, you had these games. You had PlayStation Portable. You had there was another couple of like handhelds out there, and then other people were playing on their like Tetris watches and or getting those single or double use game things to play. But this was it. I mean, I remembered having a Tetris watch myself. I played Tetris on my Tetris watch quite a bit, actually. I had a Frogger watch, too, at one point. Unfortunately, I have a high magnetic field.
Watch for your wrist?
Yeah. But unfortunately, I have a high magnetic field, so I burn out the battery in even digital watches. So I can't wear them. They don't last but like a day or two. So I don't wear watches. If I had a watch growing up, most of the time I ended up having to go with a pocket watch, winding pocket watch. But as long as I could, I would play the Tetris game, and then what I did is started carrying the watch around, but not wear it on my wrist, so I didn't have to worry about it burning out on me. I'd loop into my backpack and then play it in between classes and stuff. But these are great games. I mean, nowadays we're spoiled. Everybody's phone has got 5 billion games on it and stuff. And you can play MMOs on your phone. Uh, but first person. I've seen people running around playing first person shooters on their phones, MMOs on their phones, puzzle games, farming games, any kind of game you can find on a console. You can find a variation on your phone. Uh, but these are what really got it started before the phone became your be all end all. And there's a lot of these games that people are going to want to go back to. And so this is exciting news for Nintendo, and it could really help their Switch Online service uh, because all three of the consoles are really focusing on their online services now.
Yeah. See, something I've been thinking about is like, they recently added N64 to it, right?
Hmm.
And N64 has got some solid stuff, but when you stop and think about it, there's not very many N64 games besides the ones that are going to have like difficult third-party licensing to add to the N64 library.
Right.
You know, they could have
All the
Marios and
Marios.
Marios, but there's
Could,
even Marios. There's only a handful of Mario-related games on the N64.
right.
There's two Zelda games. Um, we got the banjo because of Rare. We're able to get Banjo
Banjo
Kazooie.
Kazooie. Yeah.
Who knows if we're going to get any of the James Bond games from that era because of licensing. Most of the
Castlevania is licensed, I think. So you have to get
well,
licensing for.
Castlevania could happen, but like so many of the games on the N64 after those are like WWE or WWF back then games or movie tie-in games like the James Bond stuff.
And then you'd
And
have to get
those
the third party
spoilers,
license. Yeah.
yeah, and then so you don't have to just get help. You don't have to just get permission from the studios that made the games or the publishers that published the games, but also permissions from the companies that own the license of those franchises.
The license that sub licensed it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
it becomes layered. It's a layered effort after that.
and and even then, the N64 had overall too. The N64 had a much smaller library than most game systems.
Right.
In the retro collector circles, it's one of the consoles that people try to build a full collection first if they're
Because
wanting
it's
to be a
easier.
full collector because it's one of the easiest consoles to make a full collection of.
Yeah, it's a smaller library.
Yeah, because of how small it's like. It's only got a oh, I think its whole library is like 260 games or something like that. It's small.
It's not a lot. I know that.
Let's see. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. N64. I'm sure some around here has the number. 296 games released in North America.
393 released spanning the platform's launch.
So, so less than 300, no matter what region you're
Well, no,
located in.
393 licensed uh, since the launch total.
N64.
Yeah, 393. So just under 400, which compared to other consoles is a very small number.
Yeah, and that's including the Japanese games and the European games only, things like that too. Like if you only look at games, like of only games, if you only look at the number for what was released in the United States and America, 296. Whereas Game Boy Advance was somewhere over 1,000. I think it was like 1,100 different games. I just had it somewhere. 1,534 games. It looks like for Game Boy Advance. And like everything else is like that. The PlayStation, the PlayStation 1 was a comparable system to the N64 because of the time frame and the era of technology. And the PS1 had a massive video game library. Say total games for PS1. Jeez,
North
where is
America.
it? 4,000.
Total in North America was 297.
For N64?
Yes. Uh,
Yeah.
Much of Europe and Australia, 243. Japan, 198. And combined, 393.
Yeah.
Found a chart on the wiki.
And then,
And of those, how many of them require a sublicense?
yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, like the PlayStation 1, which was out in the same years, had 4,105 games. Basically 10 times as many games. So the N64 has a really small library to pull from as it is. The other game systems, Super Nintendo had a huge library. Classic Nintendo had a huge library. So, but Game Boy Advance and the Game Boys in general has a massive library pool to reach into that Nintendo owns. Nintendo owns and can easily put on tons of Mario games. They could easily get the Pokemon games. They could easily get the Kirby games. Everything all from the Game Boy games, which I would hope for. I would hope if they put Game Boy on there, they have some Pokemon games on there as well, because those are just the most popular. You imagine telling people, hey, part of this service, you get access to these classic Pokemon games emulated on your Switch. That alone, I believe, would make the company millions of subscriptions. Give them millions of subscriptions.
Titles
tell everyone,
for
hey, play Pokemon Yellow now on the Switch. Wouldn't that be freaking? They'd be making money hand over fist with that. So, anyway, this leak looks very promising, and with it fitting alongside a lot of other speculation and rumors, it does feel like there's a lot of validity to this data mined leak. And so I try to limit on how much I talk about leaks and rumors and stuff, but it's just like so much is kind of coming together that's looking really promising, matching together, that I feel this is a really good indication that we are going to get Game Boy Advance games. And if we're getting Game Boy Advance games, I would imagine other Game Boy games. I'm personally hoping that we get Metal Gear Solid Game Boy Color playable on the Switch, because someone at some point, I either lost or it was stolen, my copy from my Game Boy Color. And that sucker is expensive now. It's like $500 for a copy of that game.
I cannot find a list of the non-licensed ones, so I have no idea exactly how many are non-licensed. But a good half of their library at least is licensed stuff, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, there's so much.
Yeah.
So much of it is.
I mean, they're great games. And some of them they might manage to be able to get the second license for, but
some of the popular games for N64 were the Army Men franchise. That's licensed to the Army Men company.
And you already mentioned James Bond. That was a big one. I mean, I wasn't even a shooter person, but I played GoldenEye.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, who didn't, right? And the WWF franchise was big. You know, you've already mentioned some of them. You know.
Okay, so here's one I hope they can manage to pull off: Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. I've never played Sculptor's Cut, only Clay Fighter 63 and a third. Because Sculptor's Cut, here's what's crazy: Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut was a Blockbuster exclusive. Isn't that fucking crazy? To put out a game that's Blockbuster exclusive. They didn't sell it in stores. They only sold it to Blockbuster for rentals.
Because it's a Blockbuster exclusive, that means that whoever owns the legacy of Blockbuster stuff would own that, possibly that license, which means that could still make it hard to produce.
who knows what the licensing is on that? But I know getting that game, that's like the most expensive N64 game, I believe. I was looking into it.
I
It's like a
would
couple of grand.
probably, but just to have it, just to say you got it would be worth it. That'd be a feather in your cap there, Philip. You'd be like, oh yeah, put
Well,
that up on a shelf. Said,
Positive Bad Fur Day, they could get. There's not a licensing problem with that, but I don't know if Nintendo's going to be willing to put Bad Fur Day on their Switch. I mean, they might, but I wouldn't expect it with the crude humor it uses.
yeah, it was just
Um,
like if you were going to get classic PC games, the Leisure Suit Larry ones would not just come out in every specific service like this because Leisure Suit Larry was crude humor.
yeah, yeah.
But it was funny. It was more funny than actually crude, but it was still on the more risque side of humor. Then again, there is an adult market for video games, so you never know.
I'm not
uh,
saying that people wouldn't buy it. I'm just
oh,
saying I'm not sure that
not sure we could get it
Nintendo
if
has the
Nintendo would put it
incentives.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see Nintendo letting Microsoft and Rare put it on like the Nintendo Switch store for individual purchase. I don't see them putting on the online service for people to play for free because of the content of it. I just could be wrong, and I'd be happy to be wrong. I would,
They could always put
but
an age wall in there and then do it,
yeah,
So
they could do like Disney Plus and have a
an age wall.
yeah.
Um, but hey, good news for you, Nintendo Switch people. I mean, I've been drooling over this Switch Lite every time I go to Walmart's electronics section. Even though I don't have a Switch, I wouldn't mind getting a Switch Lite. I even kid's not around right now, so he don't watch these, so he won't know. But I even mentioned to her that we might want to go in together halves and get the kid a Switch Lite for his birthday in June. So
Nice.
you know
Yeah,
that'll get a Switch, but I'd never get to touch it. If I got him a Switch Lite, I'd never get to touch it. It would be glued to his hand 24/7. We'd never get him to do anything. But you know what? I can't totally blame him there because that's how I was when I was a kid.
yeah. I was gonna say what you do is you send them on some chores. Put them on some chores that'll take them an hour, and they'll give you an hour to play.
That's right. Yeah, but I got to get him to leave it somewhere where I can get to. He said, "No, it's on the charger. It's dead because I used up the battery." Well, God damn it! I wanted to play.
That's fair. That's fair.
Because the kid, man, he runs down his battery on his phone all the time, even though I tell him he can't use it for half the shit he wants to use it for.
Wait until he starts to play it. Like when he first takes off the charger and starts to play. Hey, don't you gotta? I need you to do this.
That's right. That's right. Sabotage him,
Well,
ambush him.
in the kitchen, in the bathroom, scrubbing with a toothbrush.
Here's a kitty do list. Just leave the.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to confiscate that Switch Lite while you do it to make sure you do your chores and you're not goofing off on it.
Yeah.
I totally could see me doing that too. He's fighting Allison for it because she might want to.
Oh man.
Anyway, we're going to move on to our next topic, and of course, this is our Kickstarter for the week. I do like to cover some Kickstarters. Today, we're going to go ahead and cover a cooperative board game, Anastyr. It has 16 days left on it, with 2,250 backers. Oh wow, it's backed like 16,000 just since I looked at it about 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago.
I'm pretty sure I just saw it like roll over with a new dollar amount while you were scrolling.
But it's 100,000 over what it was asking, so it is backed. And the reason I pulled this one is because it's a cooperative game, but look at the quality of the miniatures that it looks like are going to come with this game. Easily miniatures that you could paint. In fact, there's some examples of some of them painted down below, or these might even be specialty ones that you get in a higher tier, but you could still go around and paint the miniatures because they're D&D quality miniatures in plastic. You can do a companion pledge for $130. It's not a cheap one, but it gives you the core box, you get the avatar box, and you get all the stretch goals for $130. Um, and you get all these minis with it. I mean, so for someone who like plays a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, you could dual use those minis in your D&D game and paint them as your heart's content and stuff. Make your set your own, and then play the board game. And that's the reason I thought of it because it's a miniature set who that also doubles as a cooperative board game.
Yeah.
Then there's the Dragon Pledge that gives you the Solus expansion,
I like how you worded
which
that. It's not a cooperative board game that doubles as a miniatures collection. It's a miniatures collection that doubles as a cooperative board game.
I have my priorities. God damn it!
I've done the same thing. Like that time I spent like $50 on the demo to Metal Gear Solid 2, and I got a free copy of Zone of the Enders.
Yeah, it's like I get Zone of the Enders and Metal Gear Solid 2 comes with it. Hey, what do you know? It's like,
A demo. I got like a 3-hour demo of Metal Gear Solid 2 that I paid the $50 for, and then it came with a free copy of the whole game of Zone of the Enders.
yeah, well,
Obviously, the way they marketed on the box was the other way, where it was free demo that comes with how I saw it.
yeah, just like this is marketed as a board game, but it really is a miniature set that has a board game that goes with it.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. And look at this. If you get that expansion for, $30 more, you get this big ass dragon miniature. And I love dragons. Dagrons are my favorite. And I could be painting this dragon like right now, man. I love it. I would paint it while we were talking, man. I would no, I don't have room. I would. I would if I had room. Um, but there's some stretch goals here. The campaign was the 200 and 220. They got the Warrior Brothers 260. Okay, they made that. Additional horse 280. They made that. They get the alternate slaughterer, and at 300K, which they just made. They just now. It hasn't even taken the little lock off of it yet because it just rolled over as we clicked on it. The High Father just got unlocked. And that's the last of the stretch goals so far. There's some add-ons you can get. Here's somebody's painted version of that dragon. That's a nice. Oh, it's an artist rendering. It's an artist rendering. Looks like an artist rendering actually, because it looks like it's done in oils. But still, I could use that as a base, and then I could paint the miniature in those colors and stuff. It's got some game highlights. Anyway, for people that are into board games, so I know Greg Pullman might be watching this, and actually, what Wednesday is it? It is the 20th.
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, so tomorrow he's at the Holdfast. So go see him at Holdfast Brewing Company tomorrow to play board games, and you can check to see if he's seen the show or not, and mention that I covered a board game. Let him know because you might see him before I do, or talk to him before I do. If you guys go to Holdfast, but the artwork looks really good. The miniature sculpts are excellent quality. Looks like. I mean, you're seeing it pictures. We don't know how the actual real life is going to come out, but I mean, look at some of these individualized close-ups. These are some hot-looking minis. Good terrain pieces that interlock. Cards, dice, tokens, action cards. I mean, it's got so much in this box. I mean, yes, it's $130, but it's $130 worth of stuff. I mean, you're not getting just little meeples. You're getting like miniatures that you can use, and abuse as you see fit. I love these miniatures. These are some kick-ass miniatures.
Yeah, they are. Holy crap!
Like, look at that giant uh, Molokai with a freaking horns and tail, and he's riding on it and stuff. That's badass. Oh, dragon looped around the tower. Anastyr and Volkir. Top quality. There's the one. There's an artist rendering of the rider mini. The lore. They got some lore with maps and everything too, so you can go into the story behind the game for people who might want to like write a RPG adventure based on it. There's several videos out of people that have like tested the game out and everything too, so those might be worth watching as well. Um, and you'll get an actual like 3D image that way. You'll be able to see in 3 dimensions as they play the game how it looks. Articles about it. Uh, Palo Parente, so it looks like it's like French maybe. Hmm.
Sounds French.
It should be. Scroll all the way up, all the way, all the way up. Hold on, let's grab the slider. Yeah. A lot of times they say what country they're with. Project, say tabletop loving. Uh, Denmark. Isn't D Denmark?
Denmark.
Or it could be Delaware. DE. Newark, DE.
Denmark sounds right, but Newark, Delaware.
Newark doesn't sound like a Denmark name, though. I don't know.
DE state. Let's see. Delaware. Google says Delaware.
Okay, so Newark, Delaware. At least that's where the distribution is coming from. But it's from Mythic Games, and it looks like it's just going to be a hot game to get in on. I can't afford that kind of Kickstarter myself, but for those that are serious board game collectors and like to get the big box games, this is going to be one. And for those who are big into miniatures, especially like your Warhammer 40K guys that love to get like boxes of unique miniatures, these are going to be some miniatures you want. I mean, look at this one miniature. It stands as tall as the box itself with his big ass maul hammer. He's next to the box. I was like, how's he fit in that box with everything else? He's huge.
That is a very good question.
He's huge, man. He takes up half the box.
Man, I don't know.
Yeah. This is going to be, I mean, like I said, if I had the money for it, especially if I was even more actively playing tabletop gaming in one of the miniatures, this would just totally be on my list of games to back. So this is my Kickstarter recommendation for the week. We like to support all of these small publishers who try to go out with the crowdfunding. Sometimes it's the big publishers. Even big publishers do crowdfunding. Games Workshop has, Wizards of the Coast has. I mean, it's not just the small publishers. But the thing is, the people that are the target audience for these things, get to actually have a say in whether it actually gets funded or not by actually helping fund it. And I think that's something special. So Kickstarter, GoFundMe, all these kind of campaigns I think are important. And so we've even given panels at Game about how to run a Kickstarter campaign because we think Kickstarter's such a great thing that's come out and helped the smaller indie developers get started, get backing the seed capital to see their creations come to life. And it's done nothing but help the gaming and nerd industry. Got independent comic books, independent games, independent video games, and projects. Small theater productions have been coming out via Kickstarter. Um, Website tools, all these things can come out and be developed for Kickstarter. Learning applications, all of that is because of Kickstarter campaigns. So we're going to cover a Kickstarter campaign pretty much every week. I try to cover at least one. And Greg used to do that when we were having Greg as one of our hosts. He used to cover a Kickstarter almost every week. And we're going to keep that going. And who knows? We might get a video game release, small publication covered by Lurch in the future. uh, Especially if they start developing stuff specifically for one of the big consoles through a third party developer that tries to kickstart it. Because that's happened. There are people that use Kickstarter to get any of their ideas off the ground. Anyway, that's it for this week as far as that goes. So we've done the Nintendo topic, we've done that, and we're off to our next topic from Lurch, and something having to do with John Wick.
Yeah. Okay. So there was this game series called Streets of Rage. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, vaguely.
It's like an old beat 'em up game. I used to play it on the Sega Genesis a lot. There was a total of four of them now, unless they made spin-offs that I'm not aware of. The fourth one is actually relatively new. The fourth one just came out within the last 2 or 3 years. After being dormant for a long time. But it was an old school like Sega Genesis beat 'em up game. I love number two. Where you can play this young guy on roller skates, roller blades, and just like skating around, beating the crap out of people.
Right.
Anyway, they're making a film with a script by the creator of the John Wick movie, which I feel like
that's good news.
If anyone can make a good movie of Streets of Rage, it's the people who made John Wick.
Hey, if you're going to do a slugfest, you want the John Wick creator behind it.
Right? Not only does John Wick have
the action scenes
around the action, but also the aesthetic of having like this world with like this weird kind of grimy
neon modern gothic kind of the dark brooding
art style that we had from the old Streets of Rage games.
Yeah, they very almost not exactly post-apocalyptic, but like grunge tech kind of world.
Actually, something interesting in this article. Yeah, it's kind of like a cyber
grunge tech is what I was calling it. Yeah,
gangs in the streets
with cyber implants and rollerblades and
neon. Like and like the characters you play as don't have the implants, but I think some of the enemies do, or
right.
Bosses do. Some of the bosses do, and it's got this like really dirty streets kind of environments, but with like neon lights and stuff. With all the enemies have like a lot of the enemies have like mohawks and like the 80s, what the 80s pictured gangs looked like.
Yeah, that very 80s image. Everybody had spikes and mohawks and
honestly, I'm hoping. I mean, it might not, but I'm hoping this movie leans into that aesthetic.
And there's some great actors and stuff that could sign on to something like this and be totally believable. Not least of which Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
I mean, Keanu Reeves could still pull this off. You've got you got some old school people like Ralph Macchio and stuff that could come back and do cameos, and you've got some modern day kids from different shows that
Yeah,
could
I'm
easily
thinking we
step right into this.
I'm thinking for this film we probably want some younger
Some
actors.
some would be, completely new, unknown actors and actresses, and
Not teenagers necessarily, but like at least actors that
20s,
look like they're in their
and
20s.
in their 20s, that some of them might look like teenagers and be pulling off the teenage role, but they'll actually be older because that's what they typically do in TV and
Yeah.
movies anyway.
So
Uh,
besides us having the writer behind John Wick, it is also it's being produced by the house. It says Sega is once again teaming up, as reported in this article. Sega is once again teaming up with DJ2 Entertainment, the same production house behind the Sonic the Hedgehog films.
that bodes well because
Yeah,
the Sonic movies are doing really good. I
yeah.
didn't see the second one, but I know you did.
Oh, yeah. I like the sequel more than the original, and I love the original.
Oh wow, yeah, that's this. And the guy that played the Donut Lord, I can't remember his character's name, would be a good one for this kind of role. He's got that look that could fit in this as one of the more clean cut types.
Make him into a badass brawler guy.
Yeah, he
Maybe.
would he would do good. Um, yeah. On a slightly unrelated subject, they have cast the new Percy for the Percy the Jackson Disney Plus series, and it's the
Yeah,
kid from the Adam Project that I told you about.
yeah. I saw that. I saw
The
that announcement.
kid
I
from
didn't get
the
a chance to
Adam
check it out.
Project is going to be Percy Jackson. I was like, wow, that's good because I like that kid. Kid has got the attitude to stand up as a young Ryan Reynolds. That takes something.
Oh wow.
Because he was in the Adam Project as the Ryan Reynolds' younger self, and he was believable as Ryan Reynolds' younger, sarcastic self. And that takes some skill as a young actor. And he did that. So I think he'll be a good Percy Jackson, too. I don't know. I don't see Percy as being quite as sarcastic, but it's not just that, it's the ability to take on a role like that at his age shows acting chops. You and I both know what it takes to get up on stage and do some of these things, and to get up on screen. Whether it's live or whether it's recorded, and to take on the role of somebody else is a unique skill set, and so I'm looking forward to that as well. It's another Disney Plus that I'm waiting to come out. And speaking of Disney, we were just talking before the show started. If you haven't had a chance, we're not going to show it here because of copyright. But if you have a chance and you haven't already seen it, go check out the finally dropped trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder. Thor number four's trailer is finally dropped, and I'll tell you right now, we cannot show it for sure with sound because Guns N' Roses' "Sweet Child of Mine" is the background music, and we know that's copyrighted. There
Yeah.
ain't no
So
chance we could play that.
man, that music perfectly fits.
Oh, not to mention, it is my all-time favorite song. I mean,
Oh yeah.
bar none. "Sweet Child of Mine." When I got to touch Slash's guitar back in the '90s, that was the reason it was such a spiritual moment. Because I went backstage. It was pretty awesome back when I was with the Carnival. And it was a spiritual moment for me because this was Slash's guitar, the one that had done the riff from "Sweet Child of Mine," probably one of the most memorable riffs there is. you know, I love that riff. And so I was like as close as a mortal can come to touching whatever you take for a god. My god happens to be rock and roll, but let's go. It was a spiritual moment, man. Let me tell you, getting
I'm rocking wow.
hey,
Oh
this is the
yeah.
Wolfman Jack coming at you live, WOF Wolf Radio. No,
We got a new renaissance of stuff. The new Thor trailer, holy cow! I
Yes.
couldn't find that trailer more hyped.
It is such a good trailer. And I still need, after we get done with this, I got to watch the Easter egg breakdown of it because I haven't even had a chance. Because I didn't even know it had dropped until like a few minutes before the show. I was just seeing the videos on Facebook about the breakdown of the trailer, and then immediately I get a pop up lurch in my messenger saying, "Did you see the new Thor 4 trailer yet?" I was like, I just now heard about it, and it dropped yesterday.
Yeah.
But I've been sleeping a lot and
Like,
playing.
I just want to bring up a few things on there. We got the Guardians of the Galaxy minus Gamora.
We've
I
got
love the trailer.
we got a training montage by Thor.
Oh yeah. Okay. So here's something great. So while he's doing that training montage, like we got chubby Thor that's like doing a exercising, that like exercising
But he's got heavy fucking boat anchor chains.
Yeah, they're massive chains that were at some point holding down a massive monster of some kind that has since died. That's what he's using to exercise.
Oh, they're the chains that hold Fenrir down. The Fenris wolf.
It wasn't a wolf skeleton. It was some other skeleton.
Mm.
There was a skeleton there. It looked ape-ish.
Oh, it could have been the chains that locked that one Titan down. Which is a giant, which would have an ape-like bone structure.
Yeah, and so anyway, yeah, it was it's a massive skeleton that had chains around it, and he's exercising the chains. And while he's doing that, he's wearing like a trucker hat that has like art on it that says "Strongest Avenger." and the art style, like the style of Avenger on there, is the same style as like the classic comic books font for the word Avengers.
And then you got Star-Lord giving him like leadership advice. It's like, yeah, just look into the eyes of the people that love you. No, not me.
yeah. He's saying that as he's like looking up at the other Guardians, and then Thor's like getting in,
He's like kind of staring at him. He's like, no, not me.
Yeah.
I'm not one of the ones that love you, man. No, man. Not that way, It's like,
but Thor was like, he's like, these were once the hands made for war or whatever. Now they're hands of peace or something.
I mean, my superhero days are over, and then
days are over.
And you got Valkyrie in a business suit, like mayor of New Asgard, with her business suit and everything.
During New Asgard, and if you look at New Asgard, it has become a massive tourist attraction. There's cruise ships docked up there, and
there's a ship that's being dragged through the air by flying horses and shit.
Those are flying goats.
Oh, flying goats. I only got to see that one time, so I'm still kind of.
Yeah. So that is Thor's.
Those are Thor's goats from his chariot.
Yeah, and they're
because
pulling them away.
Because from Norse mythology, Thor had a chariot that was pulled by two mystic goats that could fly, and every night he would butcher the goats and eat them, roast them and eat them. But he would warn those people that were with him not to mess with the bones. Don't do anything with the bones. And then in the morning, he would stack up the pelts and the bones and hit him with his hammer, and the goats would spring back to life. But at one point, one person that's with them scratches one of the bones and sucks out the sweet marrow. And when Thor goes to bring them back to life, that goat is lame because of it. And it's one of the stories of the travels between Thor and Loki. Because
Loki convinced someone to do that.
Actually, in this case, yeah, I think he did. Because Thor did travel with Loki quite extensively, and Loki did cause trouble all through those travels. But they were thicker than thieves. Still, they still went everywhere and did everything together. And so it was a great myth. So it's nice to see those classic elements of the Thor mythology enter into the Marvel universe.
Yeah. to get about mythology in a second. So, because they visit what appears to be Olympus, because we see who appears to be Zeus catching like a lightning bolt in the sky.
Was that Zeus? I wasn't sure if I didn't see that. Because I could have swore that was Thor catching the lightning bolt, but I wasn't paying that close attention yet.
That was a different person catching that lightning, and it looks like a lightning bolt, like he would have, like Zeus would.
Yeah, it does look like one of Zeus's thunderbolts,
Yeah.
and that's okay because in the comic books too, one of the people that Thor would often kind of compete with when they did show up, which wasn't very often in the Marvel comics, was Hercules.
Yeah.
Thor and Hercules were often kind of in a good-natured, competitive kind of situation.
Yeah.
And so to have Hercules for the Marvel Universe introduced in a Thor movie just makes sense. Even though you're crossing mythologies, it makes total sense because Thor and Hercules were rivals. They were good-natured rivals. They weren't enemies. But they were rivals for the strongest gods from the two major pantheons. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know who the main villain is? Like, we don't see the main villain at all in this. We do see some hints of the villain. Not the villain himself, but the trail he's left behind. There's one part of the trailer that shows this massive white dead creature, and I forget its name. But that shot is almost exactly a recreation of a page or two from comics, from the Thor God of Thunder comics, of a creature that was considered a god, that was close friends with Thor, that was peaceful despite being massive and scary looking, that was murdered by Gore the God Butcher.
Ah.
In this shot, he's shot of Thor discovering that he's dead. And
so is the villain Gore the God Butcher? God Butcher?
Played by
Oh.
Christian Bale.
Oh wow, that's going to be good.
Yeah.
And that actually asks you for other gods to come in. That's a good reason that the Olympians would come into it because the God Butcher is kind of like a antithetical to the other pantheistic aliens.
Yes.
The aliens that we each considered gods. The humans considered them gods, but they're each an alien culture. And you got the Asgardians, you got the Olympians. You could possibly get the Egyptians in there, you know,
Yeah.
and
We'll be talking about those in a little bit when we get to the Moon Knight conversation later.
yeah. Oh God, which is going to be a conversation. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and move on because we kind of got off of the video game topic and into some side topics, and we need to go into what we're doing.
That Thor wasn't actually one of our topics.
No, it wasn't. It was a side mention.
I was thinking it was going to be because the drop. Also,
The trailer drop.
We didn't mention the most important part though. We got to see Jane Foster Thor. Natalie.
Yes, we did. Right? Yeah. You see, yeah, because you see the original, like, well, with the head a little bit cracked, but Mjolnir comes flying through the air and gets caught. But then when it focused down on who it is, it's Jane Foster in the helmet and the Thor garb. Because Thor, though, all through the movie has got his new axe, not his hammer. And Mjolnir is now.
Mjolnir he used in Endgame was returned back to what was that 2014 or whatever. But the Mjolnir that Jane is wielding is cracked, really
right,
bad, and there's
really bad cracks
coming out of the cracks.
Yep, and oh, it looks awesome. And Jane Foster looks pretty good. She does cut a good figure in that. She actually looks like she's going to be better than I had anticipated. And so I am looking forward to this. So the new Thor is coming out soonish. I think it's June?
Yeah, June.
So we got Thor in June. We got
July, I think.
We got Multiverse of Madness in May. We've got Dumbledore just dropped. Uh, we've got so many movies coming up, and we'll talk more about that when we get into the media section. But
July
anyway,
28th is when Thor: Love and Thunder comes out, and I want to make one last comment, Thor related. Sorry, the
last
video
comment
game,
and another last comment and another.
the video game Marvel's Avengers just announced today that Jane Foster's Thor is going to be the next playable character in that game.
Oh, righteous. That's going to be cool because that's going to be a great movie tie-in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Moving on.
Now we are going to move on before we think of yet another thing to jump in
Yeah.
because we keep doing that. Okay. All right. For my vault recommendation this week, I wanted to go back to 1991 where there was a beautiful movie called Cast a Deadly Spell. Okay. Uh, Fred Ward, which we know from like Remo Williams, the movie, and a few other. He's been in tons of movies um, throughout things. I think he was even in some of the new Battlestar Galactica and stuff like that too. But it's a movie. It's in a reimagined 1948 America. So speakeasies and mobsters and gumshoes, and he's a gumshoe. But in this world, magic is open and out and exists, and just about everybody uses it, except Fred Ward's character. He's the only private eye in town, pretty much the only person in town that refuses to use magic of any kind. He doesn't have any charms, lucky charms, bracelets, protection spells, nothing, and he's trying to scrape his way by as a gumshoe. And he gets hired by a wizard to recover a book that was stolen from him. And the story is that the wizard had fired this chauffeur for ogling his daughter and possibly being a bad influence on his pure daughter. And she's pure enough she gets to hunt unicorns. That's pretty pure. Because you got to be a virgin to hunt a unicorn. But anyway, she's even though she's pure, she flirts with the best of them. Uh, and it's he when he got terminated from his employment, he supposedly the story was he stole a book from the guy's collection. And it's not supposed to be a super valuable book. You might get a few thousand for the binding and the gold trim and everything. But the book itself is not supposed to be super valuable. It's this, esoteric book on magical theory called the Necronomicon. Uh, and of course, he hires Fred Ward's character to get it, partly because it's the Necronomicon, and because Fred Ward's character, which happens to have the last name of Lovecraft, uh, uh, Lovecraft doesn't do magic, doesn't carry any magic or anything, so he would not make the connection that the Necronomicon is this big bad juju of a book because he ignores magic, tries to stay away from it as much as possible. But he's wanting to recover the Necronomicon, and he needs it the day after tomorrow by midnight because he's supposedly going to be giving a lecture, and he needs it as part of the thing he's put his lecture on. No, we know in reality, he wants to cast this major world-ending spell. So there's all kinds of neat little bits of magic, like gangsters with an enforcer that's his main lieutenant of the has a big black zombie as his enforcer, and they make jokes about how don't they smell or anything? Don't they? He says they last for about 3 months, then they start to rot. He says, what do you do with them then? He says, hey, you get a new one. They come 6 to a box, from overseas. It's like bonbons. Just order zombie to order when you need one. And they do all kinds of different like little incidental magic, and that's the thing that makes this movie so adorable. I love this movie since I first watched it, and then I was reintroduced to it a couple of years back when we were at John McDonald's place for a game meeting, and he put it on the big screen, and reminded us all of what a lovely little movie it is. It's a for those who like incidental, casual magic being done like just offhand, like it's nothing in movies, and good, especially for the time, pretty decent special effects. Like they have this one guy killed by a storm of paper cuts.
Ooh, whoa, ouch!
Yes,
Paper cuts?
yeah, because he opens up this envelope. He's thinking it's money because he's going to give it to the enforcers. Say, here, take all the money. And he finds it's old cut up newspapers in the shape of dollar bills, and then the bad guy creates like a whirlwind of air around him, and the paper starts swirling around him. Then you see cuts all appearing all over his body as he's getting bloodier and bloodier. And when he falls on the floor, he's got thousands of like long paper thin cuts all over his body because of the fact that he was killed by a total barrage of paper cuts. Basically, like you'd have had a whole bunch of like, dollar bill sized pieces of newspaper in the middle of a tornado. He just like went totally got shredded by these paper cuts. His death of 1,000 cuts times 1,000. Man, it was deadly. It's a great scene, especially for like I said, it's the '90s. Um, so you get Fred Ward's kind of sense of humor. He's a little bit sarcastic if you know him from his other movies. He does the dry kind of sarcastic, no nonsense guy pretty well. A little bit of a flirt. Not too over assuming or in your face like a musclehead or anything, but he's generally does pretty good. He plays a really good gumshoe in this. We've got some great supporting actors there. Juliette Moore is a lounge singer in it, and his ex love interest. Juliette Moore's crime boss, kind of main squeeze, is the guy that played the drill sergeant in Starship Troopers that was always going medic. So he's great. So it's really just a cute movie. Another from the vault, like I try to do every week, is recommend an older movie that some of the newer crowd have not had a chance to see, and something that introduces some like nerdy kind of fun elements to it. I thought about doing like the Three Ninjas, which kid ninjas. Those are always fun, very Disney. I rewatched all three of the Three Ninja movies, and I thought about doing that, especially since there's a Three Ninjas TV series on Disney Plus now. But I decided to go with Cast a Deadly Spell because I saw it's on HBO Max. I always like to tell you where you can go see it. It is on HBO Max. I was looking at their sci-fi fantasy collection, and it caught my eye, and I was like, yes, this is the movie for this week. Check it out. You'll enjoy it. It's just a lot of fun. It's not over the top with sexuality, so you can watch it with the family and not really worry about that. But it's not 100% G-rated either, so you're not going to worry about just watching like for instance the Three Ninjas was much more for the kids. This is kind of the in between, young adult ish, serious and adult enough that adults and stuff will really enjoy it, but tame enough that the kids are not going to be seeing things you don't necessarily want them to see quite yet. And it's just cute. It's a cute movie. I recommend it. I don't know if have you seen it, Lurch? Were you there at John McDonald's when we had that meeting? We all went over to out
So,
to John's house.
I
Uh,
don't recall.
it was a few years ago, and we went to John's house for one of our game meetings.
Yeah,
Uh,
I remember going to John's house once, but I think it was like a thing where people kind of like broke up, or maybe the movie was playing and I wasn't paying attention because I was talking to someone
could have
at the
been,
time.
but he did. He put the movie on, and a bunch of us, me and Taryn watched it. I know we were both like glued
Yeah,
to the screen.
I remember.
Uh,
I remember. I
and
remember
I'd
doing
seen it
that.
before.
I remember doing some kind of a thing once, and then I ended up spending like an hour talking to Skylar about DC movies.
And Michelle brought her dogs, and we got to interact with her dogs, and
Yeah.
they were cool and
So,
stuff. Yeah,
so I'm pretty sure. I'm thinking of the same day. I just wasn't
you
paying
may not have
attention
been
to that
paying attention to the
movie.
movie, or it might have run before or after you got there.
That could have been the case too.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's on HBO Max, so go check it out. I mean, have I steered you really wrong on a vault choice yet?
that's pretty cool. It seems like something I'd enjoy. I like this little teaser.
Blur.
Imagine Who
Who
Framed
for?
Roger Rabbit with witches and zombies instead of tunes. That sounds great.
Yeah, a great way to spend an evening.
Cast a deadly spell.
Yeah,
And
and have I steered you wrong? The vault usually doesn't steer you wrong. I mean, I don't necessarily recommend bad movies. I might recommend a B movie, but even a B movie's got something to appeal.
yeah.
And Cast a Deadly Spell is definitely a good movie. Like we've talked about Johnny Mnemonic, we've talked about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, we've done the Batman movies, we've uh, we've
I
had
think there
some.
was I think there was one movie that you suggested that I ended up watching and I didn't care for much, even though it's a very pop. It was. Did you ever do a recommendation for Lost Boys? Because I ended up.
No, I didn't do the Lost Boys, but the Lost Boys is a great movie. You don't like the Lost Boys?
Not really. I watched it.
Oh, a lot of people
I
consider
watched
that
it.
Kiefer Sutherland's best movie.
I watched it 3 or 4 months ago for the first time, and I came away from it feeling very meh about
And it
it.
was the first Lost Boys, not the sequel.
Right. Yeah.
Huh. Because that's considered by a lot to be
With
Kiefer
uh,
Sutherland's best
it
movie.
had it had
The Hames
it had
had
Kiefer Sutherland. It had
the
Corey
two
Corey
Corys.
Feldman. Yeah.
It has the two Corys and has Kiefer Sutherland is the big part of it.
Corey Feldman's character. That kid tried so hard to sound tough the whole film. It was comical.
Well, that's Corey anyway. Corey likes to do those kind of roles. Corey Feldman, that's his whole thing is to act tough. He did the same thing in his Goonies character. He tried to act like he was a tough badass and sarcastic shit, but he was really just sarcastic shit. I don't know. I personally love the Lost Boys movies, but I have not covered them on a flashback yet.
Yeah.
Not from the vault. I'm surprised you didn't like it, but you know what? Not every movie's to everybody's taste. Shoot, as far as new movies go, the Dune movie just recently came out, another iteration of it, the third one. And I'm not a Dune fan, but there are thousands and thousands of Dune fans out there. Me, I'm not a fan, and I've read all the books, and I don't like the books either. And I'm the same thing with the Wheel of Time. I don't like the Wheel of Time books, but there's
I didn't come away hating the Lost Boys. Don't get me wrong. I just was very meh about
meh,
it. I was like,
it,
it was okay.
lukewarm. You're lukewarm about it.
Lukewarm about it, which is better than I can say about 2001: The Space Odyssey because I hated that fucking piece of crap.
That one gets to be a little bit of a is it going to be over soon kind of movie.
Yeah. Okay. That whole movie could have been a 20-minute TV show on Twilight Zone, and it would have worked great.
I think they did a Twilight Zone episode that was like that.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Because there is a solid 20-minute show in that movie. And
Yeah,
then there is
a bunch of,
garbage.
of extrapolation, right? Yeah. No, but usually when I get a recommendation for the vault, I usually try to pick things I think mostly that most of us nerds will like.
Yeah.
Like I'm seriously contemplating doing Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh God, I love that movie.
I right. I wanted to do Escape from LA and Escape from New York, but I'm not finding it on streaming right now. Uh, but Kurt Russell, you can't really go wrong with Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
And
I like both of those movies.
well, yeah, so those are ones that you can anticipate in the future. Sky High, which happens to be another Kurt Russell movie, even though he's not really the star. Uh, he's just the father of the star. Uh,
Yeah.
and stuff. So I like running movies that I think most people are going to enjoy, and this is definitely one of those such movies. You know what's funny is Harry Potter is old enough now to make it into the vault because the first movie is 20 years old. So I could
Oh my
technically
god.
put it in a vault and it would count as a vault movie. I'm avoiding it right now,
Is it
but
really that old?
but yes, they had the 20th anniversary party just a couple of months ago. And so
Oh
Harry
man.
Potter is 20 years old. It technically could qualify for the vault, but I'm trying to keep it in the 80s and 90s.
As you talk about Harry Potter being 20 years old, I am witnessing my hair turn gray right now.
Hey, look at you. Think about me. I'm 51.
Man,
I was a full grown adult reading Harry Potter. I didn't even get to do it as an 11-year-old
yeah.
because they weren't out yet. But anyway, we're going to go off of this now, but this is a good one. Another good one I recommended was The Shawshank Redemption. Great movie. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh god, that was good.
absolutely phenomenal movie.
Good.
Um, but we're gonna go on from here and go to your last topic. Then we'll get into our media section. Early warning: when we get into media, it will be spoiler alerts, but we'll remind you again before we're there.
So this one is going to be a really quick, small story. Amy Hennig, who is best known for creating the Uncharted franchise, and she worked on the Soul Reaver franchise, the Legacy of Kain back in the day.
Oh,
She is
nice.
now working on a Star Wars video game. Um, she's got her own, like, she started up a new company basically a while back, and they already announced not too long ago that they are working on a story-focused action-adventure Marvel game as their first title, and now they've announced that they're also working on a action-adventure game of Star Wars.
That will feature
Um,
an original story.
yeah, as basically their second game, and I would expect it to be an original story, being Amy Hennig, because she's known for writing original stories. So I feel like this is some great news. Like, not too long ago, the exclusivity deal that Electronic Arts had for ages for Star Wars gaming development expired, and they didn't get approved on the new bid to renew it. And since then, Disney has been letting all kinds of teams work on Star Wars video game content, and I'm not complaining,
You
especially
want to
when it gets in the hands of Amy Hennig.
you want to talk gray hairs? It points out in here that Star Wars came out in '77.
Yeah,
I was 6 years old when the first Star Wars movie came out. Now look at where we are. My hair's been gray since you were born, kid.
Star Wars came out before my parents met.
I was 6. I was still a year away from playing Dungeons and Dragons. I hadn't even picked up Dungeons and Dragons yet when Star Wars came out. Because I got started that in '78.
My mom was 10 when Star Wars came out.
I was 6. Oh my god. Yep. And look at Star Wars now, and it's not quite the same. I still don't agree with that midichlorian crap, but
You know what? Almost no one talks about midichlorians. Like,
they're
it's
trying to erase it from the global consciousness by just ignoring it.
yeah. Then
If you
again,
ignore it, it didn't happen.
if George Lucas was still in control, that would not be the case. But because he's not in control, that is the case. Everyone else is trying to act like it doesn't exist.
If you ignore it, it didn't happen.
But
It's
but
kind
I
of like
heard
the
that
second Highlander movie.
George Lucas was planning on the sequel trilogy, 7, 8, 9, to be very heavy about the midichlorians. which I read what his plans were for those 3 movies, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm glad you didn't make these movies.
Yeah,
He said,
because I mean, Lucas might have created the franchise, and that's great. But as soon as he inserted that midichlorian crap into it, he changed the movie. I mean, because I'm not as anti some of the new movies as some people were. I thought if you got rid of the midichlorians, everything else was fine. I even liked Jar Jar Binks. He was there for the kids. I liked him.
yeah,
He was funny. A lot of people disliked him. I didn't dislike Jar Jar, but suddenly taking the Force and turning it into a microorganism, no, thank you. I like the spirituality of it better. Even though I'm like not into religion and stuff, this is fantasy. I like fantasy religion. That's great. I love it when fantasy likes to dip into magic and stuff, and that's the thing that separates Star Wars from like Star Trek. This is a space opera. There is space age magic, which is called the Force, and the Force is awakened, and it is not freaking little microorganisms in the blood. It's just this unknown, like something that certain families have, like the Skywalkers.
So anyway, yeah. So Amy Hennig, she described how the upcoming Star Wars game, in the press release, as a richly cinematic action adventure game that will feature an original story, which is right up Amy Hennig's history. When you look at her, if you look at the Uncharted games,
You look at her.
she was the chief creative mind behind the Uncharted video games. That you look at that. That's so. I'm really having. I got high hopes for this turning out to be something amazing. Of course, it'll be years away. But while we're so far away, what isn't so far away is last week's episodes of TV shows. So, are we ready to transition to that, or do you have another topic?
No, we're pretty much going to transition to that. The last thing I want to point out is that, like it does say there, this does give her 2 major Disney properties already to work on. And 2 of the biggest Disney properties, Marvel and Star Wars. So, for Disney to trust her with 2 of them without even having one of them come out yet, let's just hope that these are amazing games. Anyway, we're going to go on to the. Oh, wait, don't need that. I actually had put the trailer to Love and Thunder up for a second, but we're not watching that.
That art is.
Oh wait, no, it's not. It clicked me to Facebook. That's what it was. All right, CW verse. We're still in a hiatus for Superman and Lois till next week. So this.
Yeah. And the Flash is taking a break for this week.
Yeah. So next week we're just gonna have Moon Knight. Yeah. And then the following week we should have Superman and Lois and the Flash back. But this week in the Flash, yeah, we'll start with the Flash. A lot happened. Of course, as you remember, the very end of last week's Flash, Caitlin is back to her apartment and the Black Flame appears and kind of accosts her, and then we hear Ronnie Raymond's voice. So we start this week with the team trying to figure out the link between all the victims, and they're exploring some older victims that they find through looking at the police records, and they're still trying to find a link. Then Katie comes into the Star Lab, and like I said, spoiler alert, in case we didn't remind you. Red alert. Yes. It's Katie comes in and says that they're looking for me, and this is what, and then she explains what happened and that it was Ronnie. And I called this, by the way, as you remember last week, I said that the black fire, it being cold fusion, would be linked to the frickin' the Firestar powers, and that this would be a corrupt Firestar. And at the end of the episode, it was a corrupt Firestar. I called this last week. um,
And not
and
only, it's not just a corrupt Firestorm, it is the version of Firestorm from the comic book story arc Blackest Night.
yep,
And
which is
well,
fun because Blackest Night was also the introduction of the Brightest Day, Blackest Night storylines were the introduction of the alternate color rings and a big storyline for everybody in the DC universe getting a power ring practically.
and so we've got so yeah, it's a big green. It's basically a big Green Lantern story arc
it's
that
the
involves
that is the Green Lantern arc in the DC universe. That is
and
the quintessential Green Lantern arc.
and so this character is called Deathstorm,
Yep,
the death incarnation of Firestorm.
Firestorm.
And I'm really excited about this premise, about seeing an interpretation of Blackest Night.
Yeah,
I think
and
they do a good job with it.
well, among other things, that means that it might be a bridge to actually bring us a Green Lantern.
Yes, that was one of
That
the
is the part that I'm chomping the bit about. I'm like,
could be the start that gets us into the Green Lantern universe.
yes, we should can finally see a active Green Lantern or member of the Green Lantern Corps come into a CW verse show as more than just a ring. Because I mean, we saw John Diggle with a ring, but we've other than seeing like a bare glimpse during Crisis, we have not really.
Did we actually see the ring, or did
I
we just see him open a box that had a green
we
glow?
saw a green glow. We didn't even see the ring itself,
Yeah.
but I think we saw like a briefest glimpse during Crisis of a Green Lantern flying through the sky, but that was about it. And it wasn't even like detailed or focused in on or anything. So this would be the first real potential. Let me put that in big quotes. Potential lead in to the Green Lantern Corps. And I mean, ever since Ryan Reynolds' movie killed Green Lantern in a lot of people's minds, we have wanted to see an adaptation of the Green Lantern that is worthy of the characters of the Green Lantern Corps, because the Green Lantern Corps has got some fantastic characters. I mean, Guy Gardner, you got John Stewart, you've got Hal Jordan. You just got some great Green Lanterns, and those are just Earth Green Lanterns, not to mention Kilowog and and others. And the Power Ring is such a power in the universe, and the Guardians and everything, and it's going to open up another level of the DC universe into the CW verse that I'm chomping at the bit. And I think Lurch is too. It's got my blood running hot, that's for sure.
Yeah, whenever that ending with Deathstorm, I was like, hold up, and I like immediately I got
You
up
went and
and
grabbed your
grabbed my
Blackest Night
comic book
comics.
off the shelf. Yeah, I grabbed my Blackest Night comic off my bookshelf, which I keep that one in my living room.
She's
The
like,
two of them that I keep in the
that's
living
a
room,
that's a desk reference comic book.
and Squirrel goes, of course he's grabbing a comic. And then I started like trying to flip through the pages, like I'm pretty sure I've seen this guy. I'm pretty sure
Deathstorm, yes.
guys in this book.
Yes.
And
And so it's got me excited. I didn't realize they were going to actually do Deathstorm from Blackest Night, but I did call that there would be a corrupt Firestorm version coming out of this. And so we know the villain for the next few episodes is going to be Deathstorm. And we don't know where Iris is, because Iris has now been blipped out of existence by our Shadow Cat wannabe Phantom Girl.
yeah, she like grabbed her. She was upset about her mom disappearing, so she grabbed Iris and made Iris disappear.
Yeah, and we're not sure where, because we're not absolutely sure the extent of her powers in this particular iteration because they've borrowed some from the traditional Phantom Girl, but they've also borrowed from Shadowcat. And she could have some link to like some ethereal plane or something that she's banished Iris to. You know, which in Dungeons and Dragons terms, a lot of times if you go into what they call the border ethereal, you can walk through walls and stuff, but you're still kind of on the prime material plane. So a lot of the phase shifter type superheroes, a lot of D&D players kind of liken them to the ethereal plane, but that's actually linked to another plane of existence. And this leads credence to that because she made Iris disappear, not just fall through the floor or anything. So we don't know where Iris is right now. We just know she's missing. And Barry just found out. So Barry's going to be on the warpath because this is Iris we're talking about. And then we have Caitlin seriously invested in Ronnie, who's basically gone dark. And it's just going to be... I can't wait till the next episode. Now I have to wait an extra week. They keep doing this to us. They keep doing this to it. They drop a bomb and then they're like, we're taking a break. Ooh, Berlanti! Con! And I was like...
Now, technically, you know, so I was talking about this a little bit ago. While technically the threat is still kind of, sort of, basically, effectively the same villain as we've been dealing for the last few episodes, it's kind of a complete change in the story arc now. Because
well, he's got the full powers of a firestorm. Yeah. Not just a cold fusion flame. He should be able to transmute matter.
Yeah. So for the last 5 or 6 episodes, the show has been about trying to track down this black fire, which they thought was a metahuman at first. This black fire
that fed on despair.
That is, you know, killing people. They're burning them to death, effectively.
And feeding on their despair. Yeah.
And then we seemingly concluded that story, and then restarted the new story because now we got this, this fully powered death storm.
Right.
Deal with now. And
for those who don't know, Firestorm's power set is not only he's the nuclear man, and because he's in touch with, basically things down at the atomic level, he's got the ability to transmute matter.
So I feel like the way this is done, it basically is a new phase, like a new arc now that's happening, even though it's technically the same villain.
Or it's a more in-depth arc now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how some of the other progressive villains have gone, where you start off with just kind of rumors of what it is, and then when the full villain gets revealed, there's a heck of a lot more to it. That's this again. Because now he's manifest.
I'm excited. This is like, I felt like this is a good episode for The Flash.
Yeah, and as much as I'm
sorry, go ahead.
And as much as I hate it, this is the kind of reveal you want to do right before a break to get everybody anxious to come back. I don't like the break, but I understand it. And they've had breaks for various reasons. A lot of them have been COVID related. But even if this isn't a COVID related break, I'm not sure why the break is here. It is a good cliffhanger to leave us on.
maybe they didn't want to put a new episode out on 420. Yeah, that's why they took this week off.
Who knows? Anyway, we will see in a couple of weeks when it comes back. And it'll come back the same time as Superman and Lois comes back. So that'll be a nice busy week for us. And we'll just about be winding down Moon Knight because it only has 6 episodes. So we're going to be on episode 4 tomorrow. So episode 5 next week. And then episode 6 will end it up and Moon Knight will be done. I hate these small series. They need to put more episodes in. This 6 episodes is like barely whetting my appetite. I want more.
I'd rather be 6 well done episodes.
That's true. Than trying to push it out to 12 or 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the 10 episode arc that we had for like WandaVision was really good. We loved the 10 and I like that 10 episode kind of. That's my comfort zone. If they could try to push it into the 10 episodes in the future, just as a comment, I'd really like that. But I do understand what you're talking about too. If it means a better story, yeah, drop it to 6.
Yeah.
But then give us more often.
I feel like what they're doing with these shows is just letting the writers dictate, exactly how long each episode is and exactly how many episodes it is to correctly tell the story that they have in mind.
Yeah, it's just they're barely whetting my appetite.
Yeah, they want you to come back. They want them to make more.
And I do.
Yeah.
But then they need to make them not have such a long break in between introducing a new one because I get withdrawals. I go through withdrawals when there's no Marvel series going. I want a Marvel series.
Let's see, there's going to be 6 episodes, you said?
Yeah. So there's only 3 left.
Yeah, so the last episode will come out on May 4th.
May the 4th be with you. It's Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, I got you. I'm sorry. I'm just distracted because I'm trying to think. What day does Kenobi start? Kenobi starts May 27th.
See, and Kenobi would have been perfect to start on May 4th because it's Star Wars Day.
Yeah.
It would have been a great tie-in.
I was thinking of because in June, the very beginning of June, we're getting Miss Marvel. So what do we have between Moon Knight and Kenobi? I mean, it's not very long,
it's not very. No, it's not long enough to have another one. So we'll have a break again.
Yeah, I guess we'll have a 2-week break without anything interesting.
Yep.
I'm sure they're putting out something on the 11th and 18th.
Yeah, because they're always putting out some little things, but they may not be related to one of their big properties like Marvel or Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess I'll be fine since I'll also be getting Doctor Strange in May.
That's true. And that one I want to go to the theater for.
I have a feeling I'm going to go to the theater like 3 times for that movie. As much as I'm looking forward to it.
I avoid going to the theater and I don't like going by myself at all. But that's one I might even be able to talk Allison into going out for. Multiverse of Madness. It's out in May.
So, are we ready to talk about Moon Knight?
Yes, Moon Knight.
Okay.
Okay, and this time I'm actually going to bring the picture up. We're getting so much good stuff in Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Depth of the character is coming out. We get to see so much in this episode. We get to see a council of the gods meet. We get to see Mark Spector have to cooperate with Steven a little bit. And
Also, we got some suggestions that it looks like there's a third personality in there besides the 2 of them that Nathan's aware of.
Well, there is the Mr. Midnight or Mr. Moon Knight, which is supposedly run by Khonshu himself. was one of the.
So Mr. Knight was when he had that nice looking suit, and that's when Steven's in control. But
Well,
Steven was
that's how he looks. That's the Mr. Knight look, but
yeah, yeah.
the personality of Mr. Knight is supposed to be when Khonshu takes over the body from the comic books. Because,
Okay.
and we're starting to get a glimpse that maybe the Mr. Knight persona is there because both Mark and Steven have lost time.
Yeah, there's been moments where like they killed someone and they both think the other one did it.
Right.
Uh,
And because it had to do with killing and stuff, it quite logically could be Khonshu because both Mark and Steven are reticent about trying to kill people. I mean, Mark will do it if he has to. Steven doesn't want to do it at all. But Khonshu's like, kill him. You know, they're just
yeah.
mortal fleas. Kill them. You know,
Well, it's not the mortal fleas. It's they're bad guys. Kill them.
well, that too. But it was also like he doesn't value mortal life necessarily as much as Mark and Steven both do. Uh,
Yeah.
Mark will kill, but he tries to make it like a last resort, and Steven doesn't want to kill at all. Um, so we're starting to see the third personality come out, and in the comic books, he was such a DID character, dissociative identity character, that he had the three main alters, which was Stephen, Mark, and Mr. Knight. But there was also a couple of others that kind of pop in there every once in a while. So he's basically what they used to call an unstable multiple personality disorder, and that sometimes, if needed, he develops a new alter for situations. So we may be seeing more alters even than were in the comic book. I mean, not in this 6 issue run, I don't think, because we're halfway through, but who knows? Um, but it's great. It's like is my vampire character when I used to play Vampire the Sabbat live action LARPing had an unstable multiple personality disorder. So these are the kind of characters that I really like. uh, I like this kind of insanity, and you're also getting to learn more about his wife, and she's running around throwing those freaking moon blades herself and stuff. So she's armed with some of the Moon Knight type weaponry. And we see the real difference in Mark's powers depending on which version of the suit he's wearing, too. Because the Moon Knight suit has got the invulnerable cape and stuff. But the Mr. Knight suit increases like Mark's or Steven's cognitive, like uh, in touch with the more of the magic of Moon Knight and stuff, like makes it more able for him to do things like speed through the time scale and things like that. Because, uh, of course, he controls the night, but the suit partly reflects the alter that controls the suit, which is why Mark's looks like a vigilante suit and Stevens looks like a professor's.
Yeah, like a ghostly Colonel Sanders. So yeah, I think a part of that was that was a part of Khonshu's power. I mean, all of it's part of Khonshu's power, but he wasn't enough for him to do it on his own. He needed help, and Steven was the one who had the mind to be able to do that kind of a shift. Him and Mark have different knowledges. That's something I liked, that Steven was able to shine a little bit in his knowledge in this movie, in this episode. Like they were looking at the sarcophagus thing, and Steven had to help identify what things mean, and help solve this puzzle, and figure out how the star patterns work. Things like that. So while Mark is definitely the better, the badass of the two, Steven is, well
Yeah,
educated.
Mark's the one you want in combat. Mark is who you want in combat. But when you want to do just straight tricks of like knowledge and magic, you're probably better off with Steven.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last little bit is we lose Khonshu into a stone statuette at the end of the episode, which means that Khonshu is broken from Mark/Steven. So the next episode is going to be Mark/Steven trying to get Khonshu back.
Yeah. Which it's interesting because like he told Steven just before they wound back the night sky. He told
Him that it was going to cost him
he's like, this is gonna cost me
my freedom.
you know, please he's like, tell Mark to come rescue me. And then he does the thing.
And he knows that Mark's the one that has to do the rescuing part because Mark's the active guy.
Yeah. And so we got introduced to other Egyptian gods who also work through avatars. There was how many were there? 4 more gods, 4 or 5 other gods.
Well, there was Isis, which is supposed to be Isis, I assume. They just pronounced it wrong.
They're probably pronouncing it that way on purpose because of certain connotations with that word.
Right. That's true. That's true. But yeah, they came in. They had the one love goddess that gave him like some inside information, contrary to the council.
We know that most of the Egyptian gods that are here hate Khonshu.
If nothing else, they mistrust him.
Yeah.
And
How they got to talk, and like I think it was Osiris who said that we used to we decided long ago to no longer meddle in mortal affairs or in human affairs or something like that. And so it makes you wonder what it was. Is it because they turned on us? I think is what someone else added to that was that the humans turned on us.
And how he got that conference was pretty cool too, because he basically changed the night sky and caused an unseasonable eclipse in order to piss the other gods off, so they had a council. And then they told him, you change the night sky again, you're in trouble. So what's he do next? Roll back time. Change the night sky again. Because he was...
Roll the night sky back by 4,000 years.
Yeah. So that the star system would be the same as when the puzzle box had been encoded on top of that sarcophagi. So, because, of course, the stars do change from year to year, and the puzzle box was based about the time when it was actually created, not taking into account the fact that, it would be 4,000 years later when it might need to be opened. So Khonshu had to roll back time in order for that to work. And then Khonshu actually is telling him, is like, I remember that night quite clearly. And then he's like, I can show you it, and give Steven the body kind of thing. Because Steven's the one that he needs to access it. Because although Khonshu has all kinds of powers, he doesn't have... It's his avatar that determines how he can access them. Each avatar kind of acts as a lens or a focus for his powers. And they have to have the mental capability or the physical capability or whatever in order to fully utilize Khonshu's enhancements. So, for instance, Steven doesn't have the physicality, even though it's the exact same body, he doesn't have the physicality to do the martial arts and stuff that Khonshu brings to Mark Spector. Mark Spector, on the other hand, has the special ops training, Secret Service, all that stuff. So Khonshu's able to enhance his physicality and his muscle memory and everything to where he becomes the badass martial artist.
He also becomes far more durable to wounds and injuries, like we saw in here, where they had multiple spears going all the way through his body.
The suit does a lot of the healing. The suit is a healing suit. But its healing ability is lesser when it's Steven's suit than when it is Mark's suit, because Steven's still not a combat veteran. He's used to being passive. I
Yeah.
mean, he don't even eat meat except that one time, and now he thinks it drove him nuts.
Yeah, that was funny.
I love that. He says he
Um,
eat meat one bloody time, and then
so there's something I wanted to bring up that someone noticed. New
squirrel.
Kickstarters brought this up.
Oh, okay.
Um, there is a scene in this episode where Mark Spector is fighting a group of thugs, basically.
Uh
One
huh.
of them is wearing a denim jacket, and on the back of that denim jacket is an image of the Egyptian lord version of King the Conqueror.
Which would be a nice Easter egg. Yes, because among other things, Kang the Conqueror is all up and down that timeline of Marvel Universe, and there's so many different iterations of Kang that we're going to see Easter eggs of that in a lot of series.
Yeah, I'm wondering if because this is what I was thinking about is if the because he ruled like King the Conqueror went back to Egypt and ruled Egypt for for a good long while and was able to overcome everything else there using his science. I'm wondering if his science is and his conquering is what made the Egyptian gods stop meddling in mortal affairs,
Could be.
caused them to back away.
I don't know. But like we were saying during the little bit of snippet we were talking about with Thor, Moon Knight brings the Egyptians into the Marvel universe. So
Yeah,
Thor: Love and Thunder is definitely bringing in the Olympians, at
yeah.
least.
We're getting more gods. We keep getting we're getting more Egyptian
Magic
gods.
is, as they said at the near the end of Endgame, when Doctor Strange started coming into things. Magic is being more and more introduced into the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's been in the Marvel universe for years,
Yeah,
but that means we're getting more and more magic centric characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's why we're going to get a new Blade. That's why we're possibly going to get a new Ghost Rider. That's why we're going to get, um, more Doctor Strange, more Scarlet Witch. Magic might come and do more. We might eventually, when the X Men get introduced, we might get more images of things like Limbo, uh, you know, and other more almost mystical elements of the Marvel Universe. Uh, these are the characters and stuff that make up the Midnight Suns line, and it is going to be great because I love it. I mean, it's like the Black Knight is a mystical character. In a lot of ways, the Eternals are kind of a cross between super science and magic because uh, they're almost mystical characters too. Some of them have like more magical kind of ability, like Cersei. Cersei's is more closely akin to magic than it is super science. Although, like I said, all science, if it is, would be indistinguishable from magic as long as you don't know what they're doing, basically, to paraphrase.
yeah. I mean, any sufficiently advanced
That
science would be
would
indistinguishable from
from
magic.
magic. Yes. I was paraphrasing because I didn't feel like dredging up the
Yeah,
exact quote.
yeah.
But so
The
we're getting more and more of the magical part of
the reason why I care about like the wording is because it gets incorrectly
quoted a
quoted
lot.
as saying it gets incorrectly quoted a lot, and the way it gets incorrectly quoted a lot completely changes the meaning. And the incorrect quote is that magic the way people mistranslate it is they'll say magic is just science we don't understand, which is not at all what
No,
it means.
it's in that a sufficiently advanced science would appear as magic. That doesn't mean that magic itself isn't something completely separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's saying that super science looks like magic, just like metahuman abilities looks like magic. If you don't know the metahuman ability, yeah, what's causing them? Uh, and so for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to delve further and further into the magical universe is, I think, a boon because there's some great magical characters in Marvel Comics. I mean, Ghost Rider is a great magical character. Uh, Moon Knight is a great magical character. I mean, a lot of parts of Loki are magic, not just the science, because Loki's a magician of Asgard.
Yeah, I'm not a big. I've not ever been a big fan of Moon Knight just because I don't know much about him.
There's only a little bit of him.
But this show is convincing me that I need to try to like find a maybe a short run of maybe some trade paperbacks or maybe.
Well, there isn't a lot of Moon Knight out there, so
yeah. So I need to find out like a good story arc to read of his, and find a way to read it, a legal way to read it that doesn't cost much.
Right.
I don't want to pay $100 for a comic book because the show just came out.
Right.
But
but yeah, so
I'll save $100 for a Superman comic or a Deadpool comic, but
right.
But anyway,
and in honor of the magic coming back in, being more of a focus in the Marvel universe, that's why my background is a big mystic pentagram.
yeah.
I decided to go with that today.
My favorite, other than a few specific examples like Superman and Green Lantern. Otherwise, for the most part, my favorite superheroes tend to be the more magically leaning ones.
I mean, Doctor Strange is still by far my favorite superhero.
Yeah.
I mean, and then Batman. Batman and Doctor Strange are my two favorites.
Like Doctor Strange and Thor are two of my favorite superheroes out there, and both of them getting movies this summer makes me very happy.
Doctor Strange, Batman, Constantine. I love John Constantine, and he's a magic character. Swamp Thing, Man Thing, Etrigan.
I'm growing to really like Moon Knight.
Etrigan was a big favorite of mine.
Yeah.
I love Etrigan. Magic from the Young X-Men franchise, the New Mutants. Magic was always a favorite.
Did you watch the New Mutants movie?
Oh, I own it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting that they gave Lockheed the magic, even though Lockheed was like Shadowcat's pet. But Lockheed ends up being Magic's stuffed animal puppet that becomes a real dragon sometimes.
Yeah.
But I kind of liked it. I mean, it was a different way of looking at the New Mutants, but I didn't dislike it. I thought it was pretty good, and I loved Wolfsbane.
Yeah.
I thought that she was great as Wolfsbane, but then she's good in Game of Thrones. She's good in Doctor Who. I mean, she's a good actress anyway. The one that played Wolfsbane. And of course, the Demon Bear was really nicely actualized in that series. I just think they could have done a little bit more with it. They could have gone a little bit more in depth with the Demon Bear and stuff. But that's okay, because now that we're going to get the Illuminati in Multiverse of Madness, and we've pretty much almost been guaranteed Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, we're going to have the X-Men finally entering into the Disney-owned Marvel Cinematic Universe. And It opens up so many possibilities. I mean, we get to finally see Magneto with his son and daughter in their full glory. Uh, I would really like to see the old X-Men Quicksilver, like like the joke cameo in WandaVision, become an actual cross-dimensional cameo and bring that one in as a canon Quicksilver because they killed off the other Quicksilver anyway
Yeah.
because he was badass as Quicksilver too. But I mean, there's just so much that's going on with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it is becoming so dynamic and so um, rich with magical culture, and the mutants are coming back too. So we get magic and mutants. We get the two big M's of Marvel, magic and mutants.
So that's what Elizabeth Olsen meant when she talked about House of M. Mutants and magic.
That's right. The House of M storyline. Well, the House of M is also because of the Magneto family name, among other things.
I know.
But
I'm joking.
I know. But still, it makes sense though.
Yeah.
Because so we got mutants, magic, and Magneto, the big M's, and Mephisto.
Oh boy.
No, no.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's going to be so cool to see where we go into Phase 5, and I'll probably not be around for Phase 6 or Phase 7, but it'd be so nice to be a fly on the wall and see what Phase 6 and Phase 7 and Phase 8, and see how long we can keep these phases going in the Marvel shared universe. Uh, and it would be nice to see the DC shared universe to mature into something comparable. And I think if they were to reinstate the Snyderverse, it could happen.
Potentially.
If they could reinstate the Snyderverse as canon, because you and I both know that the Snyderverse was leaps and bounds better than the version we got.
Yeah.
And that's why I was so glad that they put out the Snyderverse cut, even if it was like 4 hours long. It needed 4 hours. I'm sorry, it did.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been two-hour films
Yeah.
originally. But anyway, we are a little bit over time.
Yeah, I think we covered everything pretty good this week. Let's kind of end on time well, as close to on time as we ever get. And we'll catch everybody next week. Like we said, there'll be no Flash or Lois and Superman and Lois next week. So, other than Moon Knight, we're not going to be talking a whole bunch about TV unless we find something else to talk about. But there's a lot of things coming in and out of different streaming services. So, for instance, if you're a T-Mobile customer, you can now get a year's free Paramount Plus through your T-Mobile membership. So, just to let you know, if you are on Sprint T-Mobile, check it out. You should be getting an email with an invite to a free year of Paramount Plus. I just signed up and then canceled my other Paramount membership so I'll take advantage of the freebie for a year. And that'll give you options for more movies and stuff. I just recently watched things like The October Faction. I'm rewatching The Umbrella Academy in preparation for the new season of that. We've got other stuff coming up. Picard is still going strong. So we'll have more to talk about next week. We're just not absolutely sure, other than Moon Knight, what that'll be. But we'll catch you next week. I'm Doc, my co-host Lurch. On behalf of both of us, we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a good week, guys. Oh, and belated Happy Easter to those who celebrate it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a time of chocolate and candy.
Perfect for a diabetic.
That's right.
The best holiday for a diabetic.
Other than Halloween.
Oh God.
At least with the
Halloween,
But at least with Easter, you got eggs for protein. Anyway, have a good night, everybody. May the force be with you. Finish him.